Welcome to this Men of War gem editor tutorial video. I've had a number of requests recently through from people asking me to do a video like this just to give you an idea of how you can create epic scale battles in Men of War Assault Squad, or the original Men of War. The editor's exactly the same essentially, slightly improved in Assault Squad. So this is the initial screen you get with the gem editor. So this is what you see when you first open it up. Maybe something worth noting is if you own Men of War Assault Squad and you're not sure how to actually access the gem editor, the first thing you need to do is locate the exe in the root folder, which will be either in Steam, or if you own the retail version of the game, it will be in the folder wherever you've installed it. So once you've done that, you double click the exe and you enter into the editor. So it comes with the game for those that are unsure. The first thing you need to understand with the gem editor is the fact that you've got mainly 3 screens to work from, and to access the different screens you'd use the F keys. So if you press F1, you'll see that the screen even's now changed to a screen that will essentially represent the battle, the gameplay. The editor works, it allows you to preview your missions as opposed to having to launch them into the single player game to experience them. So this is essentially the preview, if you like, of the game, but ultimately it's exactly the same as a single player game. It's no different, everything works the same, it all looks the same. So I personally tend to play most of the battles I make in the editor itself. I very rarely export them as single player missions. So if you press F2, you now get the map screen, and you can see this is the map screen because it says in the top right map. So this is where you load the map, and this is where you get to amend the landscape itself. So for example, you can add trees, you can amend the foliage however you like, the fauna, etc, etc. F3 is mission, and this is really the critical screen for editing purposes, for creating epic scale battles. This is where you put down units, you put down vehicles, you define waypoints, etc, etc. So we'll get on to all this. I think the first thing I want to establish here before I crack on is that all I'm showing you today in this editor is how to make massive battles, the shortcuts, the simple ways to just create quick, easy, fun missions based on just having loads of units, and you can just run amok and go wild with whatever your imagination allows you to create. You do need a powerful PC to create levels like this though, so I highly suggest that, unless you've got a decent CPU, I'd suggest an i5 or an i7 Intel, good, hopefully overclocked CPU, and decent graphics card and a good amount of RAM. You're going to need at least 4 gig of RAM to do this kind of stuff. Although Men of War is an RTS game, you'd be amazed how much is going on in this game, particularly when you throw down hundreds or in some cases thousands of units. So before you proceed with trying to make an epic scale battle, just remember that unless you've got a very good PC, it's gonna play awfully. You're going to get low frame rates, and it's just going to be a bit of a mess. So just bear that in mind. The first thing then is we want to select a map. It's as simple as that. So if you press F2, we go to the map screen. Now in the top right, we select here map. So just follow the cursor. So now we just click load. And what this does is this opens up a folder with all the preloaded maps from the game, so the single player maps, the multiplayer maps. You'll see there's a couple here. These are ones that I've made, and I've just saved them into that particular location. These are these are actual maps that I've used in previous videos. Bridgehold, for example. Defend the Gen is actually that tower defence one I made a couple of weeks ago. So the first thing is I've selected a map I want to use for this, for the purposes of this video. So I select multi, which is multiplayer. And here you get a list of all the multiplayer maps. So I'm going to select this one, Road, which is a standard 1 versus 1, relatively small map. Double click, and this will now load up. So here we go. So the gem editor has loaded the map in. So this is quite a simple map, but it's quite a nice one. I tend to go for all the Western European style maps. I'm not too into the Eastern stuff, because I'm just more into the Western Front era. Western Front sort of element of World War II, if you like. So the first thing you notice is there's no sky, and that's because that's not part of the map. So what we need to do is select a sky. The easiest way to do that is to press F6, environment. So now we Select any of these and it will create a sky or a backdrop based on pre-created templates. I like bright stuff. I like it just being sunny, something like this. How about that one? Let's stick with that. It's a bridge, and obviously you can amend all this, but for the purposes of this video we're just keeping it simple. Now, one thing to take note of is you'll see here there's edges of the map and it looks a bit horrible, but when you press F1, which is your preview mode or play mode, you'll see how the fog is automatically rendered there to make it look a little bit more attractive, cosmetically more appealing. So back to the mission, F3. So then, now this is the F3 screen. So this is where we actually want to start throwing down units. So obviously there's various scenarios. I mean, obviously I know my bridge battle maps are quite popular, but what I'm going to show you today, you just have to use your imagination if you want to go and create your own bridge style battles. Based on what I'm going to tell you, you should be able to go away and do it. I'll show you the basics. So for this battle I'm just going to do a simple 1 versus 1, big army on this side of the map versus a big army on this side of the map. So first thing I want to do is I want to populate this side with a number of troops. So what we do on the right side of the screen, you'll see we've got various options here. We select them. If you highlight it, it will tell you what it represents. You've got view, entity, etc, etc. Now before we get too involved with this, this is what we want, entity, which is number 2. So here you've got a selection of all the stuff you can use. It's all broken down. For those of you that are familiar with Operation Flashpoint's mission editor or Armour 2s, it's much like that. You're just selecting elements you're placing down, pre-created characters, vehicles, etc, etc. One thing I will say about the gem editor, it is, as far as I'm concerned, the best packaged editor I've ever used in terms of it's come packaged with a game. This for me is the best one I've ever used. It's not perfect, but as far as I'm concerned it's absolutely fantastic. So human is what we want, and we want to select some avatars. So I'm going to go for England for this particular map. So I'm going to go for a load of riflemen first. So this is just putting down the actual units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What I tend to do, and you can do this any way you like, but I like to put down a mixture of units, different types of guys. So I'll create one squad and I'll just keep copying it over. So a couple of riflemen, SMGs, sappers, sniper, need a couple of snipers in a squad, definitely a machine gunner, Bren gunners, flamer, why not, couple, bazooka, yeah, go on then, and obviously we need an officer. Well, we don't need one, but I like to have at least 2. So that's a relatively big squad. Now the first thing I want to do is highlight them all. So if you press, the quickest way to do this is press F2 and then press F3 again and then highlight them, and you'll know they're highlighted because you'll get the circles. Now notice there, when you press F2, if I highlight that, I'll be able to highlight the actual map elements, but now if I press F3, I'll only be able to highlight the actual mission elements, i.e. characters, AI. So the first thing I want to do is make sure these are all set for the same side. So you'll see here properties on the right side of the screen. Now for some reason there seems to be a graphical issue with the latest version of Assault Squad's gem editor and the latest NVIDIA drivers that have been released. So you'll see here that some of the boxes, there's that weird overlay where I can't see the text. I've just learnt to get used to it, but you shouldn't in theory get that on your version. But what we're looking for is player, and I've learnt to get used to this so I can sort of see it, although I know it's not particularly clear. So player, I want to select player 1. So they're all now player 1. As you can see, they all go red, which represents the side. Conversely, if I selected player 2, they change to green. So I want player 1. So the key thing with these battles is you have to make sure that each side has a defined player relationship. So in other words, they understand that they're player 1, the enemy's player 2, because otherwise the AI won't battle each other. The AI won't acknowledge that the enemy's an enemy because they'll be set as the same player. So we've done that, which is the key thing. A few other examples here of things to take note of. Fire mode, open, so you could set that for hold or return fire if you like. So hold would be if you're in a defence style map and you don't want them to shoot until they get shot at, you can have it set for hold, or return even. I mean, hold would just be hold, so they wouldn't fire. Movement mode, this is quite a good one. What I tend to use this for on the defence maps is, quite a critical thing for defence maps is you set all your units who are defending for hold, because if you set it for free, they're going to run off on a whim as soon as the action kicks off. The AI will trigger and they attack the enemy as opposed to defend a position. So you want them camped by a sandbag or whatever. So in order to ensure that they do not move from the position you put them in, you'd set it for hold, and then they will not move. And when you're in the game, you can change that, because it's just a simple squad command. You just select the unit and change it from hold to move. So that's not something that you're stuck with once you actually load the level. Zone, that's where you define an area based on a radius. So for example, these guys, we could define the area, say 20, and they'd only be able to move in a circle of about the size of the equivalent value of 20, whatever that is. I use that sometimes certainly for tank battles. If I want a tank not leaving a particular village or series of buildings, I set a zone. But for this, it's all going to be free. So, and I could go on about this, but the video would end up being very long. So what you now need to do is select that. So we've selected all of those units. Now Control C, simple copy paste. Just see here, top left, it says copy 23 entities. So we've now got a squad size of 23. So now standard procedure, Control V. There we go. Control V again. Control V again. Control V again. And I'm going to go crazy. Control V again. To be honest with you, I go even more crazy than that usually. I have absolutely hideous amounts of AI, but it doesn't really matter for this video. You get the idea of what I'm trying to do. So the next thing I want tanks, because no battle's complete without tanks. So we go back to the top box here, and we move away from civilian, which is or human even, and we go to this category here, vehicle. Now, unless you're a World War II aficionado, I mean, I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to World War II, and I know a lot of people are fellow geeks that play Men of War, with all due respect, but we know our World War II vehicles and weaponry. If you're not too familiar with World War II era tanks and stuff, you may struggle to fully understand what you're selecting, but simply put, you've got three categories of tank. If you want to put down tanks, you've got cannons, which represent artillery pieces, cars. You've got marine, which I very rarely use, like boats, stuff like that. So just to keep it simple, I'm going to put down some medium tanks, and I like to keep it authentic, so I would only put tanks that are associated with the side I've selected, i.e. England, with them. So I wouldn't create a side of American troops that are all riding in Panzer tanks. I just wouldn't want to do that. But this game will let you do that though, so bear that in mind. You can assign any vehicle to any side. So for the Brits, they did use a load of Shermans, but in fact I'm not going to go for that. I'm going to go for heavy tanks, because the Brits had some very good heavy tanks. The Black Prince, a very formidable tank, put that down. Centurion, which wasn't really used much in World War II. In fact, I don't think it was used once, but it was more a late war tank that was used in the Korean War. Proved to be the most effective tank design of World War II because of its actual performance in Korea. Just a little fact. Churchill, which is the staple. I'm going to put down a couple of these. Maybe that will do, actually, to be honest. You get the idea. So what we now need to do is put down some crews, and you can crew a tank with any type of unit, but again, I like to keep it relatively authentic. So I'm going to go for human, I'm going to go for multiplayer, England again, and I'm scrolled all the way down, and you'll get vehicle supporter or tank command. So let's just use tank command. So put down 5 each, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now again, I just want to make sure these are all the same side. So look, you'll notice that they're not player 1 at the moment, so that's key. Make it all player 1. Now the easiest way to put these guys in the tank, because the tank won't move unless it's crewed, you need to bear that in mind. So what you need to do is press F1, and you need to press 1 on your numpad, so you're representing the player 1. Select your guys and move them into the tank. So obviously you need to know how to play Men of War to do that, but it's just standard like you would play the game. You're just selecting your dudes and I was instructing them to get in the tank. It's as simple as that. The crew size for that tank is maybe not as many as 5, but it doesn't matter. We'll have a guy riding shotgun there. Now I've put these right on the edge of the map, which is a bit of a mistake, so I can't actually see what I'm doing, but you get the idea. I'm just making sure the tanks are crewed up. So now when we switch back to F3, you'll see that they've all hopped in, or some of them have. So these tanks will now be operational. So that's that. So now what we want to do is we want these guys to move out, because we've got two choices. We can either play the battle and manually instruct an entire side to move forward, or we can do things cleverly and have it so they all just go full steam ahead. With defence battles, obviously, you only need to do that with one side, i.e. the attackers, but with battles of this nature, I tend to play as one side, so I wouldn't set any waypoints, but as the other side I set the waypoints. And for those that aren't familiar, a waypoint is essentially just instructing the AI to go to a certain location. So you need to tell them to go from point A to point B, and as soon as you've set that, they'll automatically move out. So it's relatively straightforward to set a waypoint in Men of War. The first thing you need to do is to create a squad, because that makes it far easier to manage waypoints. So what you do, making sure you're in F3 mission, you select squad here, which is option number 3. Now we select all of our dudes on this side. Well, in fact, I've done that wrong. What we first need to do is select. Okay, I'm having a moment. There we go. We need to select them all with. I'll explain that in a minute. Yeah, you need to select entities first, which is where you get your dudes that you use to place on the map. Then select them all, like so. And once you've done that, you then select squad. So as you can see, they're now all highlighted. Now we create the actual squad. So we right click, select add, and I'm going to just call them England 1 or ENG1. Done. So now we can see a squad and a list of squad members here. So it shows that they're all selected. So it's not so much a squad as an entire army, but that hey ho. So the first thing we need to do, or the second thing now, is we've created the squad, so now we need to create a waypoint. So it's number 3, so it's number 4 even, so it's the next option. So we need to define where these dudes are going to actually move off to. So I quite fancy the idea of a big battle kicking off right in the centre of this map, just beyond this windmill. So let's say on the road about here. So what we need to do is add a waypoint. So right click in this middle box. No, you don't do that, what I'm talking about. You click add here. Now you select anywhere. There we go. And that waypoint's numbered, so you see that's 0, so that's the first waypoint I've used to place down. And we only need one waypoint. Both the enemy and the friendly side can use the same waypoint. So we've now placed the waypoint, so now what we need to do is create the final element of this, which is going to trigger the waypoint, which is to create what's known as a trigger. So, a couple options down on the mission screen, you'll see the option for trigger, which is the number 6 down the list. So it's just a case here of right clicking add. What I always do is I will give the trigger name the same name as the squad that I'm referring to, so I'm going to call this ENG1 again. Notice the key bit. In order to turn on the waypoint, what you need to do is in this commands box, which is the third one down, you right click, you select add. Now here you select waypoint, double click, who. So this is where you define who you want. You can have an individual, i.e. actor, or squad. So we want a squad, select squad. Use current, I never use that myself, I define the squad manually, so it's this one, squad. And our squad should be listed, and there we go, England 1, bang. Waypoint, we want to define the waypoint they're moving out to, so it's waypoint 0. Okay, that's done. So now, if I've done it right, these dudes should move out. One thing to do, obviously these are all highlighted, which we don't want to have in the battle, because if you press F1 they'll still be highlighted. So just press F2, just a little tip there, and now press F1. There we go. Now these guys aren't moving off, and the reason for that is because I haven't initiated the battle yet. For any AI scripts you have to initiate the battle, and to do that it's the bottom right option here, which is start. If you don't do that, the battle won't actually be happening because the AI won't be triggered. You'll just be moving dudes around, but there will be no active AI. So now if we select start, there we go. So as you can see, there's an army on the move. And this is what I love about this game. They all form up in single file. The tanks move at the right speed. All the work's done for you effectively, in terms of it looking nice and cinematic. So the Tommies are on the move, and at the moment they're on the move to an uncontested area of the map, but we'll soon change that. So here you go. So this gives you an idea of how to create an army on the move. And obviously you can add further waypoints. I've just added one waypoint here, but you could add a second waypoint so they could move here, and then once they all arrive, they move out again, move to waypoint 2, which could be here, for example, or wherever you want it. But I don't generally make battles like that. I stick to simple principles, just so I can see the fun play out. So there we go. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to close that because you've seen what happens. So bottom right again, you'll see here finish. So if we select finish, that will end the battle, and it will take us back to the exact place we left the mission prior to launching the preview. So I'm now going to do the same thing again for the other sides of the map, and I'm going to have a load of German troops. So here we go. So this gives you an idea. Again, I'm just going to play it through. I'm going to do it faster this time because obviously now you've seen the process, if you like. So vehicles, I'm going to just have German troops. Again, just going to create a simple squad, elites, a couple of medics. I didn't put down medics for the Brits, but that doesn't matter. I'm only doing a test map here, really. Bazooka, snipers, blah blah blah. You get the idea. Oh, just a little officer there, 2 officers, done. Right, so now we need to select them. F2, F3, select. And the key thing here is to change the side. So we want to make sure these aren't player 1, we want to make sure they're player 2. So that way they will engage the Brits because they're an enemy team. So now, highlight, Control C, so that's 22 entities, so almost the same size as the British squad. Paste, 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 one more, paste, done. So now we want tanks, big shiny tanks. I'm going to go for, again, heavy tank, and there's a lot to choose from. My personal favourite is the formidable Jag Tiger. Now just a little tip for vehicle placement. When you select the vehicle, if you want it facing a different direction, you can hold down X and move it like that, but that's a bit awkward. A nicer way is to hold down Z and do that. You can hold down Z, move it around wherever you want it to initially face, and that principle works with artillery, sandbags, buildings, whatever you want to use. So that's a nice little thing to remember. So we've got a Jag Tiger, and I think we want to back the Jag Tiger up with some, I don't know, sport for choice at the moment. I'm going to go back to heavy. I'm going to go for there we go. Oh no, maybe that's a bit too powerful. There we go. King top. No. Veteran Tiger. There we go. That's what I like to see. Veteran Tiger. Bang, bang. And I don't need to turn it around because the AI will turn it around anyway. So now we need to just put down the crew. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's 5 each for these tanks, but it doesn't really matter. It might be 4. So remember, the key thing now is to make sure these are the same sides. So highlight them all. Player 2, F1. So now we're in the game. You need to select 2 on your numpad, otherwise you won't be able to highlight them. You'll get the X. So now look, if I press 2, there we go. So I highlight them, move them into tank, move them in. That's it. And you don't need to wait, they will get in. So now you press F3 and they will still be climbing in. The AI doesn't suddenly stop working, which again is a very nice feature of the editor. And that will do. So now highlight them all. And now I need to create the squad. And I think I missed out the Jag Tiger there, so there we go. So squad, add, I'm going to call it Ger1, Germany 1. And we don't need to set a waypoint because the waypoint's still in principle effective for the German side. I'm going to use the same waypoint as the Brits, so waypoint 0. So all I need to do is add a trigger. So we've got our trigger there for England, so I need to add a trigger for Ger1, which is the squad. So it's commands, waypoint, who, squad, Which squad? Ger 1. Which waypoint? 0. Okay. And now F2, so unselect them all. F1, and as soon as I hit start, the party will begin, so let's see what happens. This could be quite a battle. My money's on the Germans, but you never know. My next battle, by the way, will be a Brit versus Germany battle. Commonwealth forces, or really the British in this game, versus some formidable German unit. So this is going to be ugly. There's some random hero officer charging ahead. I think he's going to get nailed. Bit of a hero. Oh, we got a kill. There we go. And the AI now will generally kick in. They won't all charge at the same spot. As soon as action kicks off, they will take cover, their flank, their move to do all sorts of tactical stuff. And that's again the principle of this game I love. So nice little battle raging here now. Jag Tiger's kicked in. Will the Jag Tiger take out the Black Prince? This is a bit of a formidable clash. So I'm not controlling any of this. That Jag Tiger's gonna nail this, I would have imagined. Maybe not. Oh, looks like something got hit there. Oh, there we go. I think the Black Prince just got hit. The Black Prince is out, it's too slow. It's up to the Churchills. One of the Tigers is down. And another Tiger's down, the main gun's been destroyed, so it's up to this Jag Tiger. And if you press V, nice little tip, you'll get an idea of how many dead bodies there are. The reds represent the Germans, yellows the Brits. Hull destroyed, so it's now one tank versus one tank, effectively. So I don't know who's winning here, it's tough to say. I'd say it's pretty much an even battle so far, but saying that though, it looks like the Germans have gained a bit of ground here. They've moved up to the windmill. Brits are stacked up here. I'm going to stop this in a second because the purpose of this video isn't really to just show you a battle. There was a fire raging here. Natural fire, that's going to cause some issues. So the Brits are on the retreat here. So the Germans have won this particular encounter. That's the Jag Tiger. I'm not sure, I think I've lost it. I've still got a tank here though. The Germans are stacking up. Oh, the Black Prince is still up. Its track's been disabled, but it's still in the battle. There's the Jag Tiger. And at any point you can just select the squad, the side you want to play as. So I'm now effectively playing as the Germans. I press 2 on the numpad just to get an idea of how these tanks are doing. So based on the body count now, it looks relatively even. I'll say the Brits have essentially lost that middle ground. But you play this battle again and the outcome will be completely different. And again, that's what's so good about sandbox unscripted games of this nature. And yeah, the Brits are really falling back now. And I'm gonna end this because you get the idea. So I'm hoping that this video has given you an idea of how to create these battles, how to easily just create a big, large-scale epic battle. I love Men of War single player, but with any RTS game I find that the single player is essentially quite limited. It's scripted. I don't like the fact that it's based on a template. I like epic scale battles in RTS games, and that's why I love having an editor at my disposal to just create insanely vast armies just battling. For me, that's the fun in RTS games, and that's why for me Men of War is the best RTS game I've ever played, because I've never had the experience of this sort of freedom before in an RTS game, where you can create these kind of ridiculous scale battles, and also they play out quite realistically as far as I'm concerned. So that Tiger's now just finishing off the Brits. And the Jag Tiger's now on the move. The Black Prince is out of the game. So, to end this, what you do, I'm quite reluctant to, because I like seeing it end. One dude left, by the looks of it. One Brit. Not now, he's gone. So that's it, Germans have won that. So that was good fun. You get the idea. So now we select finish, at the bottom right, finish. And that will end that battle. And the key thing now, and the way to end this video, is press F3. And what you want to do is save it. So at the top right you'll see a star icon there, and that star represents an unsaved mission. So you select mission, and you select save as. You don't need to save the map as well, the mission will be fine. So this is currently in the folder for that particular map, which is fine. You can leave it in there if you like. And you just give it a name. So I'm going to call this test battle, whatever. OK. Saving in progress, save complete. So that's done. So that's now a safe battle. So now you can successfully quit the editor, and your genius piece of work will be saved for the world to see. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you an idea of how to use the gem editor. There are a few little things that I possibly didn't cover, but I feel that that's given you an idea of the real key elements when it comes to making a real proper battle. And just remember, like I said in my previous video, in my previous comment a few minutes ago, ensure that when you create defense battles, you set one side as hold. So you'll define where they go in terms of placing their cover, but you need to make sure for their holding position they're not on the retreat. But apart from, or they're not going to move out. But apart from that, in principle, everything is the same. So have fun, and I'd like to see some of your vids. So if you make any, send me the links. Cheers.